Yeah, today we are taking it to the courtroom, really. I mean, you've seen the case, you know the case, but you and I are going to discuss all aspects of I don't even know if it's Coinbase versus the SEC or SEC versus everybody, but what's going on? I mean, you seem to know more than most.
Yeah, so in June of 2023, the SEC actually sued Coinbase, saying that they violated securities, not securities fraud, but they made securities violations. And so, in turn, Coinbase is suing the SEC, saying the SEC doesn't have jurisdiction over Coinbase because cryptocurrency is not a security.
So, basically what Coinbase is every transaction on Coinbase illegal? Essentially is what the SEC is claiming.
Well, they're not saying that it's illegal. What they're saying is the Coinbase was issuing tokens or allowing people to purchase tokens, which could have been a security or what the SEC would deem as a security. And because the people buying them didn't have the licenses or they didn't verify the way they needed to, they're not accredited investors. The SEC went after Coinbase and said, hey, you can't do this.
In fact, the SEC went after, I have, and I'll share here the screen, a distinct group of people, and not only from within the Coinbase perspective, right? That's basically Gary versus Brian Armstrong, who, by the way, their company headquarters, I think, are in California, but he went to Rice University in Houston. Did you know
Oh,
that?
wow. That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and as I look, there's a listing of the companies that they named specifically. Do you want to go through? I mean, I know that SEC Sol is Solana, ADA is
Right.
Cardano,
Matic.
right? Matic,
Matic's a ridiculous one. Dash.
Chili's, I think, is like a sports token. Flow, Near, Dash. I mean, you've got some bigger players. I don't think these are necessarily like the first two are top 10 coins.
Yep.
Matic's top 20, and I think the majority ICP is definitely top 20. So you're going after some big players here. Like he's trying to knock the legs from out under not only Coinbase in this, but by naming these coins the day that suit was issued, these coins took a tumble.
Yeah, if only they took customer funds and supported the politics, maybe they would have gotten away with it like FTX did.
Yeah. And, I think right now, and this is worth talking about, there are, in my mind, two and a half coins that have regulatory clarity. We're going to go into the different sides of this Coinbase versus SEC because right now, the SEC is, well, the filing you mentioned, but Coinbase is looking for a summary judgment to dismiss the case.
Yeah.
But let's talk for a second. We think because Chair Gensler and his predecessors have acknowledged Bitcoin as a commodity, that it indeed is not a security. Fair
Yeah.
enough?
Fair enough to me.
All right. And so when I say two and a half, there was the famous speech by Bill Hinman where he acknowledged that Ethereum, notwithstanding the ICO, was also a commodity.
Yes. Yep.
Now we know that Ethereum could rewind that or unwind it because things change over time, and who knows why Hinman said that at the time, but present day Ethereum kind of is in that half place, and fair enough, or maybe even 0.75 with clarity. Also, XRP recently completed a case. Now, some people, depending upon how you feel about it, say that XRP won. Other people say that XRP lost. Do you want to give your hot opinion on that one? What's your thought?
Actually, I was wondering your opinion on that one because I mean, I kind of sit either way, but what do you think happened?
So it's clearly not for retail a security. That part the judge made very clear, Judge Torres. The part where it is possibly, I think it is a security, is with institutional investors. Now, what that means is if it's a banker's coin and they're selling this to banks, which are institutions or even corporations, it is a security in that sense. And in the secondary sense, in terms of retail buyers, there is no investment contract. There is no way for us to reach into Ripple, the company, and pierce the corporate veil. All we're doing, if you will, is buying from Coinbase. And so our relationship is like a stockholder to Coinbase. It's not as an investment vehicle. So there is no investment contract. And at the heart of all this stuff is the Howey Law from, I think, the 1930s.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. The
And
good
that's
old
going to come
Howey
up in a
laws.
second.
Yeah. So for my take on Bitcoin, right? The reason why Bitcoin is not a security is because they don't know who to go after. Like, who do you hold responsible? And if you can't hold anybody responsible, how can you say that person's going to profit from having distributed the coins? And
There is
so,
no common enterprise. You're right. It fails right there. Game over.
yep, it's done. Ethereum is a little bit of a different animal because Vitalik made it, right? You know that,
Yes.
but the utility is what comes into play. Like, what is that cryptocurrency actually used for? And we know that, Ethereum is used to store value. I mean, it was part of the NFT boom. You could put images on it, you could put videos on it, you could put documents on it. I mean, there was a plethora of things that you could do. And oh, by the way, when you're doing those things and tying it to Ethereum, you have to use Ethereum in order to put it on Ethereum. So now you have a store of value and a utility. Where it got a little bit,
it was transactional, right? Your fees paid for the gas. It was the gas that moved the product, that imprinted the code, that made it yours uniquely on the blockchain.
Yeah, exactly.
The brilliance of the blockchain and the creativity of the people in the industry far exceeds regulations that were invented in 1930s. We're going to continue to encounter this, but 90 years later, I don't think it is standing the test of time. I think it held up really well, but we're going to see here in a second on a few other things.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that kind of the story though? Like, now they're trying to apply old laws to new technology and it just doesn't fit. It needs revision. It needs to be refined. It needs to be defined so that we have clear guidance. And that's just not something that happens. So you have these murky waters of, maybe it is, maybe it's not.
For sure. I'm going to pull back up our screen and take a look a little bit more at some of the, different things that we've got going on. One of the people who's covering the current court case is Eleanor Tarrant. She is a Fox News journalist, and she brings up a couple of key things in this component of the case. And it's basically the judge said that she wanted to hear both sides of the story. I'm summarizing here.
Sure.
And I love this. Thalia, asked the lawyer for the SEC, how do I know you're not going to implicate collectibles or commodities? In fact, she brought up Beanie Babies. What do you think? What's your take on that?
I mean, I think it's a fair point, right? Like, you're trying to lump everything into one basket and it just doesn't fit at all.
And you can see what the lawyer from the SEC responded with. These are verbatim quotes, basically saying that a baseball card, you're buying into the item, not into the enterprise. And so that's what we were talking about just a second ago. I also feel like, sometimes you have these nameless, faceless judges, plural. So I wanted to get a look at who it was. There's the Wikipedia page. There she is. One thing that's, she said, she looks excited.
She's happy. Yes, looks excited to be there.
No, she went to Harvard Law, obviously very, very intelligent, was appointed by President Obama. And as you look at it, she's been around the block enough to know, and she's done her homework. There are other court cases that have been set up. The SEC sued Library. Did you see that one?
I didn't, actually.
Okay, they basically put that coin out of business. And so what it's been like with this regulation through enforcement is the SEC comes up, brings a suit, and then you pay your toll.
Yeah.
And so some companies have paid the toll, and I think some companies are fighting the fight. And initially, when Ripple went down that path, I don't think anyone thought that they were the ones that were going to represent through XRP what it meant to retail in this space.
Yeah.
But because they were willing to see it all the way through, and it's not even done yet. I know people that claim victory. I think it's a shallow victory at this point, because until they reach a point of settlement, this thing isn't done.
Yeah.
And so they've got to determine whatever the fine is, and get ready. The SEC is going to come out and say, oh, we won this, and it's a landmark settlement victory. And, sometimes you settle with these things, and with Kraken, they settled. Did you see what happened next?
No, what happened next?
They got sued again, right? So they settled on this issue and paid their fine. And then the SEC came after them a different direction. I think they were basically saying that they couldn't do the staking component of things, something that they were hot to
Gotcha.
trot on a few weeks,
Yep.
few months back. They paid them fine, said, hey, we'll stop staking. And then they got caught up in a lawsuit like this, saying that the securities that they were selling on their exchange were illegal as well. So this come see, come saw is really, really challenging. I'm going to pull up another image from the court case. Yeah, you can see that there. This is again from Eleanor Terrett. She was there. I don't think she does the drawings or the paintings. I've met Eleanor before. She is really looking at, she's a great journalist for the cryptocurrency industry. And as much as she cares about the space, she's interested in all of it.
Yeah.
And just by keeping up with it, she's probably differentiated herself from the majority of people out there. Someone definitely worth the follow.
Yeah, happy to hear that. We need more people like that, right? People just aren't educated enough. And we've heard issues before where lawyers are saying they're presenting things in front of judges and the judges don't understand the technical aspects. So how can you rule in a legitimate manner when you just don't even understand the underlying tech of what you're talking about?
Indeed. And so I mentioned Beanie Babies a second ago. Do you have any Beanie Babies?
I don't. No.
I never did.
I was a tomboy. I was like G.I.
Okay.
Joe, and it's no Beanie Babies.
All right. I've got baseball cards, which is not the same.
Yeah.
But I just love this where the judge says this. I'm going to be the judge for a second. You can be the judge in a minute if you want to. I've not thought about Beanie Babies in decades, and yet it's being presented to me in multiple briefs. So all these different lawyers are bringing up Beanie Babies. And I think this is the crypto industry's way of saying, really, by this definition of the law, Beanie Babies are going to be one too.
Yep.
And she says, it's a real fear that I have that your argument is just sweeping too broadly and contending that collectibles are securities. Think about, pet rock could be a security the way this seems to be going.
Yeah.
And so she didn't want to be an activist judge. And she had received a brief from Senator Cynthia Lummis. Lummis? I don't know.
Loomis? Probably Loomis.
All right. She called for the SEC's case against Coinbase to be dismissed. And so she did this. I think this article comes to us from August of 23. So think how long this has played out just to now get in front of the judge in January of 24 to discuss the possibility of a summary judgment.
Yep.
Now.
Yeah. Well, so I think a good point here, just real quick, is what is a security, right? We're throwing this word around a lot right now. What is the actual definition of a security? Do you know?
Yeah, no, I would have to Google that. And I've heard people talk about it. There's a common enterprise, it's the Howey.
Well, you're getting into the Howey, right?
Yeah.
So the actual definition is an asset that can be traded for monetary value. That's how broad.
Simple enough. See, I'm getting all legal. I've been listening to too many lawyers.
Getting too much. Yeah. So, so you're saying if you go by that definition, it's broad, it's huge. And that's where the Howey test comes in to actually say, is somebody going to profit off it? Go all the way through. And if it checks all the box, then it's a security. And you just see that cryptocurrency is kind of in this limbo, it's a tricky, do you want to go back and forth?
The Howey test came of age with the idea that there was someone investing in an orange grove. Multiple people were. And so the question was, were the oranges securities? In and of themselves, the oranges are not securities. The oranges are commodities, right? We know this as we think about coal and other things. But what the Howey test did said, because there was a common enterprise with the expectation of profit, there would be the definition of that as an investment vehicle. There was an implied investment contract, and that there was a centralized organization that was responsible for this execution. And that is one of the beautiful things about Bitcoin. It is sufficiently decentralized. So you were about to go down a different path. We're going to play a little bit of a different game.
Yeah, I think there's good points that can be brought up on both sides.
And I was going to ask you, and I'm going to take us back to this. What do you think is going to be the outcome of this request by Coinbase or summary judgment? Do you think they're going to be successful, or is this thing going to go to trial?
Honestly, I think it's going to go to trial. I don't think they're going to dismiss it. And the reason being is to sit there and say that cryptocurrency is not a security just opens up too many vulnerabilities to people. We saw during the ICO boom, right? And this is where we go back to talk about the utility of the token. During the ICO boom, people figured out that you could create a token on Ethereum, you could sell that token, and then the expectation was you sell the token, you grab the profits, you build whatever blockchain you were going to build. We
And
saw
you pull the rug. I'm sorry, right? And then you pull the
yeah.
rug.
Well,
Yeah.
not it wasn't
Not
always
always.
that way,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like it was the nature, like if you did all that money in 2017 and all of a sudden all of it crashed in 2018, you go from having $500,000 in the bank to $10,000 in the bank, right? So how do you continue to build when you just cut your profits so much, or whatever you're supposed to be using to build this technology with? And in that instance, it is a security.
Fair enough. You know, I always remember one of the things you said to me: if you don't know who is managing the organization, don't invest.
Yep. If you can't reach out, if you can't find them or talk to them, stay away.
Yeah. Do not let NFTs manage your investment vehicles. That's a bad sign.
My mom's an artist, and she just had somebody write her and say, "Hey, I can go and I can put your art on OpenSea, and if you just pay me $350 for the gas fee," right? My mom's in her 60s, like she's old. She knows crypto, but so she's texting me like, "D, look at this, and I'm like, ask this question. Right off the bat, I thought it was a scam. I don't want to hurt my mom's feelings. She's all excited about it, right? But there's telltales.
What'd you do?
When they're writing lots of misspellings, when it's not proper English, when they're speaking weird, that's usually a good sign that it's a scam. And so at the end of the day, she just told the lady, or whoever it was, like, my daughter can do this for free, but thanks. Because I'm not like mess with her, like write them and say this and write them and say this. And she's like, I don't have time for all that.
Engage them. Hey, look, it's about to get worse or better depending upon who you are. With all this AI stuff, you're able to now craft messages much more authentically, fewer spelling errors, able to pull at the heartstrings. If somebody knows how to do command prompts, oh man, I could have some fun. If we want to one time, in a way to help protect people. I'm not looking for people to use it to exploit people, but you look at it and you go, well, this could be pretty dangerous.
Yeah. I've almost fallen for it. I got an email one time from PayPal. And I literally went through I was like, what? I didn't authorize this transaction. I call the number. I'm talking to the guy. He's super nice. And as I'm going through, he's like, oh, I sent you the code. Give me the code. And I was like, you got me. You almost got me. I was like, you're a scam. Close. Thanks, so bye. Yeah. And we're seasoned people to know a little bit better. So you just think people who don't even work in this industry or people who aren't technologically savvy, which, by the way, is probably the majority of the people, how easy it could be for them to fall into it.
Yeah, I got a letter, which was actually more dangerous to me than the email, because I can spot by the extension. If it's a Gmail extension and it says it's from PayPal, guess what? It's not from PayPal. Yeah. But this one happened to be for a company, and it said something was past due at, let's say, $300 or $400. I ignored it. I'm like, there's no way this is fraud. The next one comes through. They've added interest expense, say they're going to turn it into a reporting credit agency, and all of a sudden it's $622. And I'm thinking, oh, this is out of control. It's got an 800 number. I look up the name of the company on the web before I call them. I call them. They said, sir, well, I'd like to get started with our call today by having you tell me the last 4 of your social and the last 4 of your phone number. I see you're calling in from da-da-da-da-da. I was like, oh no, right? Like, look how far I was able to get before I tapped the brakes. And I'm skeptical, to say it nicely. Like, I'm not looking to, I want to take care of business and I want to take care of people, but goodness gracious, if as an older generation, boomers in particular, love them, trust them, they raised me, but I am very worried about how easy it is to make it look official through a PDF or through a Gmail or through the words that you use. So
to tie this back to crypto, this goes back to, you can buy the hype, right? You could be like, oh yeah, this is going to change the world and this is going to this. But if you think about the practicality of what people are saying, right? Usually you can figure out if that project is gonna, like, are they really going to be able to do what they're saying they're going to do? Does this really make sense? Like, just because it's on the blockchain doesn't mean that there's suddenly this magical way that's going to make something super, successful. Like the blockchain is just a means of storing value. The business practice, the team, the funding, all those things still have to be present in order for it to be a success.
So let's take this back and try to wrap from here. I do think the summary judgment will not be granted by the judge, which
No.
thus means it'll go to trial, and we're going to find out. And it's kind of weird the way it sets up. They're holding Coinbase responsible, but it was these specific coins that were named.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like I don't know exactly how many coins Coinbase trades. There's what, hundreds, maybe thousands more that they trade, but somehow these 10, 11 coins are implicated.
Yeah. Do they all, I mean, I know Dash is a monetary one. I'm really surprised. Dash is supposed to be used like money, just like Bitcoin. So it's odd to me, but maybe they saw some kind of pre-sale. I would think something happened in the background that kind of lumped those together. I mean, Matic is nothing more than an overlay for Ethereum for it to be more operational to get rid of the gas fees. So, it's odd to me that they picked those. I bet it's somewhere in the paperwork or something that happened behind the scenes that actually, made them think, oh, okay, this was a security. And usually it's the distribution of coins before the utility. So if you distribute the coins before the utility is functional, then you're distributing it with the anticipation that those coins are going to rise, and therefore it's a security.
Well, I hate to be the conspiracy theorist among us, but the money moves so dramatically when something like that's issued. I can't imagine that there weren't people who were in the know and on the take who may or may not have worked for the SEC or the financial institutions.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're talking about already volatile industries that swing 30-40% on news like that. I mean, Coinbase, I don't know the math exactly, but at an aggregate higher level with a huge market cap took a big hit. So imagine what happened to these smaller coins when you find out that the SEC has put you on a short list saying that you shouldn't be trading on this company that filed an S01 through you as part of your IPO. Like, that's the thing that blows me away. They didn't surprise anyone by trading these coins. And I just think, once it goes, so let's say we both agree, summary judgment, not going to occur. Now they're going to court. And I guess Coinbase, correct me if I'm wrong, is the defendant.
Yep.
Right. And SEC is the plaintiff.
Yep.
And at that point, I think we're still innocent, still proven guilty, or I don't know exactly what the standard would be in the financial.
Is that what it is in America?
I don't know. All I can do is laugh, because otherwise I think I might cry. But yeah, you look at that and say, what standard are they held to? And is it turned into this place because Coinbase has deep pockets and because the SEC is funded? I think this is really important to know, by the money they collect from the suits that they bring. So Ripple was willing to take this thing out all the way to the finish because they had an escrow and they had, I want to say, cash reserves of 100 million. So like, no, we're going to fight this for the industry. I think Brian Armstrong is built very much like Brad Garlinghouse. I think he's probably willing to fight this thing out. I mean, he doesn't want to take his market cap and spend $100 million on legal fees. No. But if he sets it straight for the industry, if he makes it a better place, I'm thinking he's the kind of guy who wants to live by the operational rules. They're angry, I think. And I follow the Ethereum lawyer, chief legal officer on Twitter, X, and they're impassioned about this regulation by enforcement. I don't think that changes. It's changing now through the courts. I think this one's going to go to the finish line too.
Yeah. And good for Brian Armstrong, because he literally has everything to gain if he wins. He has nothing to lose. I mean, he's got his everything on the line right now. So seeing this through and fighting it through and fighting the good fight, if he wins, if he is successful, just think of what that does for Coinbase. I also have a little bit of conspiracy theory behind it too. Like, Coinbase is one of the largest exchanges. Binance just got fined. Was FTX ever?
No.
Not. I mean, okay, they're in jail, but that's a whole nother, but this is what I'm saying. I wonder if those things started coming about, this game that they play, and they like to act like behind the scenes it's not. And, I know that the majority of government is there I worked in government. I believe it's a lot
Okay.
of good people. I believe they're there for us, for the people. There are a few who will use the government's powers to their benefit and just manipulate things. And sometimes I think this crypto thing is just a game that they like to manipulate.
Yeah, it is realistically a hardwiring. It's rewiring the financial system.
As it
So
should.
that
It's a mess. It's a hot. Look at us
well,
now.
and that's part of why the all-time high to me is inevitable, because two things are in place: the technology,
Yep.
right, and you've got the competitive countries in play. So as you
Yep.
look at that conflict, the status as America's world reserve currency, we're going to fight like hell for that. And
Yeah.
so I think there's something in the back of the minds of the people that are responsible saying, you know what, I'm not just doing this for the betterment of the banking industry, which no doubt it keeps the incumbent, but I think they're doing it in their mind's eye to help keep America in this exalted status. I
Yeah.
think that's possible. I think they may prolong it, but it also makes it such that when it finally does reach that tipping point, it's not a transition at that point. It goes from an evolution to a revolution. And so in some ways what the SEC is doing, ironically, I'm not advocating for revolutions. I like evolutions. They're much more pleasant and everybody can get along and we have harmony. And I'm not saying we're singing zippity doo dah, but we don't have the war and the conflict. And the war and the conflict is starting to break out on the edges.
Yeah. And you look at Coinbase again, just bringing it back. They tried to follow the rules. They did everything they were supposed to do. And the SEC is like, do this, Coinbase did it. They're like, do this, Coinbase did it. They're like, do this, Coinbase did it. I mean, Coinbase was the exchange that was on the up and up. I mean, at least that's the way we understood it, right? They were very strict about the coins they lit in. They did their due diligence like they wouldn't believe. And I mean, having worked for different cryptocurrencies, I've seen what it's like to get on these exchanges, and a lot of coins struggle and have to go to exchanges out of country because they don't meet the due diligence, right?
Yeah,
To get on
for
it.
sure.
And Coinbase was very stringent about the way that they process things, as was Kraken. And yet the SEC comes after them anyways. So you have these guys that are trying to follow the rules and they still get screwed. And it's sad. It's sad to see.
Yeah, and I'll bring it back. I see, like, as the Bitcoin spot ETF comes into play, and if what those exchanges make money from doing is taking money from one place and transitioning it to another, you are on a race to the bottom to see who can be the most efficient. And at some point, there's definitely, and that's what we're talking about. This whole show is that this is an investment class. Right now, we're at 1.6, 1.7 trillion. What if that asset class moves to 10 trillion? Do you think the financial fidelities and those industries are going to want to have a piece of that action?
Of course. Of
A
course. They
thousand
want it
percent.
now. They missed
Yeah.
out. They've missed out on it in the last 12 years. I mean, you look at the people who are millionaires now. I mean, you've got guys who never went to college, never, I mean, they just happen to find Bitcoin, they happen to buy it early, and now they're millionaires. And so you're seeing this, and maybe that's the thing that frustrates people too, is rather than having the upper class, this elite, go to college, get the education, build a business, now you have somebody who just happened to buy the right cryptocurrency and they're a millionaire. And by the way, this is not financial advice. We are doing this for
Yeah.
entertainment value. Nothing, I mean, you can listen to everything we say, but don't risk more than you can, because it's just not worth it, no matter what it is. But you see these guys who bought coins early and now they're millionaires and they're able to, I mean, just look at FTX, right? SBF, I mean, he did go to college, but he was what, the youngest billionaire ever? Oh no, I guess
Sure.
Kylie Jenner was, right? But he was
She
quick.
was. She was a billionaire. Her and
Yeah.
Zuckerberg were pretty
Yep.
young
Yeah.
when
So
they
when
did it.
yeah. Yeah, but I just, it's that gap's getting bigger. I think crypto levels the playing field. I think cryptocurrency is the way that people can get in. They could look to support blockchains that they believe in, and hopefully those blockchains have a significant impact on their life.
Did you interview Ted Cruz? Have you interviewed him before?
I have not, but I did meet him a couple times at the Texas Bitcoin Blockchain Council, or Texas
Yes.
Bitcoin, the conference.
The Texas Blockchain Summit. There,
Yeah, there we go. That was that one. You know it.
and I'll
You know
never
it.
forget what he said. And he mentioned to a room of people hanging on his every word, you either have to get more people in the space or money in the space. He goes, because that's what moves Congress. That's what moves politicians. So I thought that was very authentic for him to say that. And then it hit me as I read another article, and it was not a Bitcoin or a crypto magazine. I think it was a more mainstream Fortune magazine or something like that. But the idea was that 1/3 of all millennials that are millionaires did so through cryptocurrency or Bitcoin.
Yeah. It's
And you
crazy,
realize
right?
that the power and the money, and it may not happen in the boomer lifetime, and it may not happen in the X lifetime, but there'll be a bridge at some point to the millennials or Z where they do have that persuasive, the persuasion that comes with a lot of people and a lot of money. And
Yeah.
it's happening. How fast? We'll find out. That's what this
Yeah.
whole show's about. How
Yep.
fast? How slow? When do we get to an all-time high? Do you want to close this out today?
I'll let you do it. You're so good at it.
We're co-hosts now, Dionna.
I
We're
know.
co-hosts. So like, whoever.
Just like to see her smile.
Yeah, no, you do a great job. You inform, you educate. You've been one of the most certainly influential people in Texas, if not the nation, on helping the space grow. And that's what we're here to do. Thank you for
Absolutely.
joining us. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of All Time High. Until next time.